for pitch bends. But when you're sequencing, it can be used for the velocity of each step. So if I hold this step, press it down a bit, I'll do that for each of the offbeat ones. Now I think I went.
James.
Sim, James falando.
James, tá ouvindo bem aí?
Eu tô ouvindo super bem.
Tô testando a internet aqui.
Testando a internet.
O Evan vai entrar também, ele vai ter só 45 minutos, então ótimo, porque daí a gente agiliza tudo no começo.
E como... Qual que é a audiência disso?
Perdão?
Vai ter uma galera?
Não, eu, você, o Evan, o Márcio não vai entrar, ele falou que tem um negócio com o filho dele lá e não vai conseguir entrar. Aí, tipo, eu acho que o Zano, deixa eu só confirmar com o Zano se ele vai entrar mesmo ou não. Porque por um lado é bom não ter muita gente, que não, tipo, demora demais, né?
Qual Zano? Zanatti? Qual Zanatti?
Zanatti, nossa. Cacete. Thank you. So, if...
Qual Zanatti? O Zanatti daí?
Eu tô vendo agora se ele vai entrar. Peraí, já te digo.
Hello.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm fine. And you, man?
Good, brother.
How about Portland?
It's cold and rainy.
Cold and raining.
It's a bummer.
You know, I'm just doing a campaign with laundry service at this moment
Yeah?
in New York.
Hi guys,
In New York,
we are on.
I'm
Are you,
there.
are you in New York right now?
Now I am in São Paulo, but I have some jobs there. My company is open in Miami at this moment,
Cool.
and I have some jobs and some works in New York, Los Angeles, and Miami as well.
Well, if you ever find yourself in Portland, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. We are, we are doing the light speed, the light
Yeah,
speed, demolish the
super
campaign.
cool.
It's pretty cool. Very nice films. Very nice ones. Very
Hi,
nice.
Selena, how are
Hi.
you?
good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. So I saw that you and James already talked a little bit.
Yep.
Okay. So I just want to there are people watching because the agencies they were saying, are you going to just give us a link to watch the results? We are all nervous here in the agency. We put it on TV, so everybody wants to watch. I just want to let you know. So uh,
Do the students know the scores yet or no?
nope, nope, nope,
Okay.
not yet. So I
Okay.
think you are the one who just give them the feedback, and after that, um, we will send them everything you sent me before in the email. So Isabella told me that they have a problem. Andre, I don't know if you're listening, but I think you should just turn off your microphone there and be sure that the audio is okay for everybody. I'm not with Andre. He's in Curitiba. I'm in Florianopolis, so you're in different places tonight. Isa, tell me if it's okay now, if it's better. And I just want to introduce James because I think it's important. He has to go in some minutes, so I told him we would do it fast. And I know Evan
Okay.
has a meeting too. So because when we do this kind of thing, like we are taking students to Cannes or South by Southwest, we kind of need the market help, and we don't do that by ourselves. So this kind of project are possible because we have companies and people that support the creative,
Yeah,
creative
yeah.
market, and bet in this. They really invest in our project. So that's what James has been doing since I was an intern, and I remember him always supporting all the projects we have in the Creation Club for Paraná State with his producer company, and he kept doing it through Red Hook since I started like 5 years ago. He was like always with us, and he's always there. And besides, sponsoring the projects, he's always there teaching and sharing his experience with the young people to help to build a better um, um, market, to develop our market. So James, want to say something to the kids since you're our first sponsor for the Future Creatives?
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's a great pleasure to participate all the years to retribute a little bit what the market did for me. Uh, the studio. My name is James. I'm the JMute founder, and I can tell that my last 23 years, that's the age of the studio. Always have a lot of. I always be very happy with the market, and I think that I really have to retribute it for them. And we know that we have a lot of talents and very talented people that spread around the world at this moment, and they have a very nice position in some very important agencies. And for me, it's very important to keep it going, to keep the way of thinking that we have in Curitiba. That's a very particular way of thinking. It's a very particular way of create things that makes difference in the agencies. For me to collaborate and to make part of all this effort that I know Celinha is always enthusiastic of the education in our state, and I'm always glad to help and to contribute and to always make my best for the people in Paraná. That's my point of view for this night.
Okay.
So thank you, James. I think Evan now is with you. Go ahead.
So very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you, Evan.
You too, James.
I think we will be together in the job. We are joining us.
I hope so.
I think we will talk
I hope so.
soon about it.
Okay.
Bye bye. Have a nice night.
Bye, James.
You too, brother.
Bye. Bye bye.
All right. I'm going to share my screen. I put a couple slides together. So I just put the feedback I sent you into a deck so I could go through it with everybody.
Okay, great.
Can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So you guys know the problem we were trying to solve. Just a reminder. You knew the brief related to that problem. When I looked through all the ideas, I judged them on two things. One was impact. So how well, how deeply, and how comprehensively did the idea solve this problem? And the other one was scale. So the potential, the potential audience or the size of the audience that would be affected. So for all of the ideas, I graded them on each of these criteria, and then your final score is an average of both of these scores. I did award some bonus points, so there are a couple of specific and unique things in some of the projects I was really impressed with. So I awarded a bonus point for a couple of different things, and I'll make sure I call that out as we go through. And one thing before we get started, I was really, really, really impressed with the concept development, the level of fidelity, the storytelling, the idea development, the creativity that went into all 11 of the projects. I work with a lot of agencies, dozens and dozens and dozens of them all the time. And everybody who participated before we get started needs to give themselves, their teammates, a huge pat on the back, because you guys definitely are competitive with the professionals that I work with on a day-to-day basis. So you should be really, really proud of the work that you've done. Before I jump into the feedback, I want to give one other comment. I judge the work from a professional level. I'm not a professor or a teacher. So the criteria or the bar, the relative examples I have to judge the work against that you've done is other professional agency work that I see every day. So I don't want anyone to get discouraged if they feel like their score is a little bit lower in comparison to like an academic scale. Just know that you are being judged the same criteria with the same feedback structure that I would give a Wyden and Kennedy, an AKQA, an RGA, any other global agency, or local or smaller agency that I would work with to drive real business results. So keep that in mind. I have two pieces of general feedback or just observations that kind of apply to everything that aren't specific to any project, but the full body of work. So the first observation was, and this is not right or wrong, it was just something that I noticed that I thought was interesting. Every single team took a gendered approach with their idea, focusing on how to elevate an experience, elevate access, create opportunities for girls and women, which was definitely one way to approach the brief. I was surprised that nobody decided to focus on actually removing gender entirely from sport and focusing on how to actually bring boys and girls together to form a quote unquote degendered experience or idea. That I didn't hold that against you, because you can, there's many ways into this problem. But with some of the more cultural barriers, like a lack of peer support or a lack of sort of friend network, or people in your community to play with, to help sort of build up your community or your confidence, bringing in boys and men actually doubles the footprint of potential advocates and potential support. So if we could change some of the forces or criteria that sort of segregate genders in the construct of sport to remove some of that friction between sports programs for girls and sports programs for boys, by removing gender, you actually double the size of that community or the size of that support group. So it was just a thought as you move on from this project and into other projects. The idea or the sort of topic of gender is inevitably going to come up. So just another perspective on the brief to think about as we move forward. The second was business models. So I know that this was a creative brief. You guys have a lot of agency experience. You do a lot of sort of brand platform, brand concepts, communication, brand experience type of work. But one thing that's very, very important to clients, specifically ones as large as Nike, is how ideas go beyond sort of a campaign level. And the way that typically works is there's an entrepreneurial layer that actually drives a sustainability plan through the creative idea. That could be a funding model that ensures that the idea generates its own revenue stream that can then reinvest back into the future of the of the concept. Or that could be some sort of network or support group or audience that's contributing in a less overtly dollar capacity or sort of economic capacity, but through community engagement or connections or sort of network that brings people together, the community grows and builds. And as the community grows and builds, it becomes more impactful. So some ideas did actually focus on this. Some ideas focused more on the sort of the creative side or the concept side. Just so you know, even though Nike's a big company, there's lots of really big brands in the world. No company, especially when it comes down to the specific team or individual that you're working with, is going to have unlimited resources. So when you're able to provide not just the creative idea, but some thinking or some entrepreneurial spirit about how that creative idea can live on beyond like the budget allocated to a project, that's when you go from here, from sort of being a great creative person to being a partner that the brand can't live without. It takes your work to the next level. And specifically with a topic that's as broad and as important as this one, having a long-term perspective and some models or some ideas that can power that perspective is very, very important. So these are just two kind of things I wanted to say before we get started. And with that, I will start in the order that you set up the scorecard, Celia. So the first idea was Nina, which was the virtual influencer. From an impact perspective, I give it a 7. From a scale perspective, I gave it a 10. And this team earned a bonus point for being the most unexpected or creative, sort of the most outside the box concept that sort of all the teams came up with. So what I really, really like about this idea is it aligns super. It's super aligned to Gen Z behavior, habits, and culture. So when you think about just general young people in the world, this is bang on something that they would love, that they would want to engage with. A area that some brands and organizations have started to dabble in, but really hasn't taken off. But something I truly believe that sort of the age ranges that we care about for this brief would find super compelling. So there was a lot of potential sort of on the just like the alignment with the consumer that I really, really liked. I also liked about how scalable this is. You could actually take Nina and you could apply Nina as a layer to any of the other 10 ideas. And this idea would actually help elevate or you have an instant advocate or an instant sort of awareness driver for any of the other concepts. So in terms of like scalability and being able to impact a global audience and be able to flex into a bunch of different types of campaigns or platforms or sort of audiences, this idea has really big legs, has a lot of potential. So that's why the scale score is maxed out. However, from an impact perspective, there is an area to improve. Obviously, this idea is going to be and awareness driven. You're basically creating a virtual advocate or a virtual role model. So the sort of impact or the like value that this idea is going to be able to provide girls and women around the world is going to be that of a champion. It's going to be harder for this idea to like raise money to invest back into programs. Obviously, it's a virtual character, so that virtual character can't show up in real life and like host a sports program. So some of the feedback on the sort of impact side is why that score is a little bit lower. And I just had two thoughts about how to make this idea better. One, the product line, which I thought was super smart. Why not build a give back into the revenue generated from that product line? I think specifically the wristbands. If those wristbands cost $1, why couldn't 100% of that revenue go back into some sort of funding model or grant fund that actually allows Nina to award resources to programs or partners that are driving more sort of day-to-day local activations and programs. And then the other part I thought is if you actually added a tertiary character or a world around Nina that helped bring men in or boys in as well, you start to have a really compelling 360-degree approach to sport that starts to get into that overarching piece of feedback that I just gave around degendering the whole conversation. So if Nina could have friends or advocates that were male that sort of come and go through her programming cadence to show that this is not just a women's thing, I thought that you'd have more potential on the impact of the messaging and the impact of the inspiration that Nina could provide. So really nice work to this team. Your score with the bonus point was 9.5 out of 10, which is extremely high. So you should be very, very proud. The next project was the Dream Maker. So from an impact perspective, this gets a 6. From a scale perspective, it gets a 4, giving you and you get a bonus point for having an amazing. I thought the music track in your video really helped sell your idea. Like the emotion that track evoked was really, really powerful. And I thought that creative decision that you made was worth a bonus point. So score is 6 out of 10. What I really liked about this is focusing on the school system is really sharp and a great foundational platform to activate on. One, because almost everybody goes to school, so you have a captive audience. And two, schools drive a lot of sports participation with youth. So a lot of people's interaction and engagement with sport comes through their school or programs related to their school. and also using sport as a means for broader life impact. So tying sport to like a university opportunity or a scholarship or an opportunity to sort of get connected to mentorship and education above and beyond the actual sport experience, I thought was really, really smart, because one of the key sort of barriers that was in the brief was that women don't see, or women's support groups or sort of parents and authority structures don't see a future in sport for women, and therefore they think that prioritizing or investing your time in sport is taking time away from an activity that's actually going to more positively impact a girl's future. So I thought tying sport to other avenues of self-improvement, like education, like mentorship, was really smart, because it actually allows sport to be an enabler for other aspects of life, which actually delivers on that barrier of sport being the perception that sport doesn't, like, women don't have a future in sport, or sport doesn't contribute positively to your sort of long-term life as an adult when you're a female. A couple of things to improve. Ultimately, the audience is really small relative to the cost that this would take. And so most of my feedback was just on the ROI equation. So a couple of specifics on how you could improve that. One, from broadening the audience. The program was very specific to women who already have ambitions to go pro, or are already sort of at a level of participation in their life that they're able to take that next step into a sort of university environment or semi-pro environment. I don't think that's necessarily a requirement of the mechanics and sort of core ethos of this idea. I think you don't just have to focus on universities. And I think focusing on other areas, possibly a little bit younger, makes the scale of this a lot bigger. The second was creating a halo effect. So it's going to be very expensive to fund physical programming on a regular basis. So how we could build in an impact model beyond the, let's call it 25 to 30 women that get to go through one of these programs, so that every dollar that gets invested in that program for that 25 to 30 actually that impacts a broader audience through those participants. So is there a storytelling mechanic in which there's like a content series or inspiration that comes out of the journeys of these participants? Or do the women themselves who receive the scholarships or participate in these programs actually pay it forward by becoming mentors themselves? So is one of the requirements of getting one of these scholarships or being part of one of these programs that then you have to go reinvest your time into the next round of programs or investments, so that for every 25 to 30 women that get to do this, you're creating 25 or 30 women that then go impact 25 and 30 more, so that your investment in those people starts to impact more and more other women and girls beyond the immediate participants in the program. Again, really nice job. I think just a couple of things that you could have tweaked to get the scores up, but you should be really proud of the work. The next one was jerseys for girls. This one gets us a 6.5 out of 10. So from an impact perspective, it gets a 5. From a scale perspective, it gets an 8. What I really like about this is it leverages Nike as a platform to power up other organizations that have the ability to make a more nuanced or appropriate impact at a local level. So Nike's really, really big, but one of the challenges of being really, really big is it can be really hard to be agile and locally relevant. And what we found in a lot of the community impact work that we do as a brand is, rather than us trying to ourselves go own and operate a program or an experience, that investing or creating a platform to award resources to partner programs that are already doing what we that have an aligned vision with what we want to accomplish, but just need more just need help to be more impactful, is a much smarter way to go about it. So I just thought the structure and the mechanic of this idea was really, really smart. The only knock on this, or the sort of key piece of feedback for this one, is that I think auctioning off jerseys is going to struggle to raise substantial funds over a long period of time. So this could be a really fun tactical program. So say, Women's World Cup is coming up, taking all the key Nike players in that tournament and auctioning off their jerseys, I think would be really impactful in that moment in time. But the actual market for this type of memorabilia at the end of the day is very, very niche. So even if we got all of our big athletes to do this several times a year, so that's Serena, LeBron, Marta, Neymar, Cristiano, Drake, so on and so forth. I think we'd struggle to raise more than a few $100,000 annually. And I think that number starts to decrease the longer you do this, because there just aren't a lot of people out there who are willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars on this type of thing on a repeated basis. So I think this was a great tactical idea, but if we wanted to look long term and start to get that sort of impact number up, because it has more longevity, I think using a similar model, which is how do you leverage Nike athletes to sort of be the voice and the funding model, or sort of the advocacy model for the idea, could be applied to some other areas. Like, for example, could Nike launch a segment of their a segment of their athlete portfolio that's community oriented, and the only way that an athlete gets into that segment is they agree to reinvest a portion of their endorsement check from Nike back into the community? Or Nike says, hey, we're going to pay you $1 million, but 750,000 of that goes in your pocket, and the other 250,000 of that goes into a community fund. And we go athlete to athlete and ask who wants to be in that community offense, and who would rather just be a regular brand ambassador and keep the 100% of that of their Nike check. Also, could there be something around sort of product, an athlete product that could be interesting? Like, could we, rather than it being like the game jersey, and it being a signed version of that, like what if there was just a special jersey that every Nike team or Nike athlete got to wear on special moments, like maybe on International Women's Day, or on Earth Day, or on some of these sort of like tentpole cultural moments that align with the vision of increasing women's sport participation? Like, what if we just had a product concept that all our athletes wore on that day, and then everyone who bought that product was raising money through that revenue to reinvest back in the community? So really, really strong, like, foundational concept, and like smart way of thinking of Nike and Nike's athletes as a platform. I just think we could broaden the impact potential a little bit by pushing on the way that we activate those athletes beyond signed jerseys. Next one was the goal diary. So impact of this was 5, scale was 9, giving you a total of 7 out of 10. I really like this because it's grounded in community, which is a really powerful enabler. It also helps reverse key cultural barriers, i.e. lack of support and or friends that sort of are on your team or playing sport alongside you. So it feels more fun. Also including pro athletes was really sharp because it builds mentorship and sort of role models and inspiration into the community element. So you have a community element of girls around the world, and then you have sort of this layer over the top that provides even more value. It also creates commonality between sort of the the everyday athlete layer and the pro, which I think is a really a more powerful mechanism than just pure inspiration, just pure storytelling about a pro athlete story. When you had that Hope Solo example in the video and in your pitch, that was like showing a girl who was having her own issue, and then the platform was serving up a story from Hope Solo about that exact same issue. It starts to create a really aspirational bond between a girl and a professional, and it helps show her that the fact that she's having a hard time is okay, and that doesn't mean that she can't continue to pursue sport and can't still be successful in sport because a professional went through the exact same or a similar type of situation. I also thought the AI powered sort of direct messaging component or sort of distribution system by which you would source all of these sort of stories or all this guidance from players, and then use AI to actually serve that up to the community based on the dire entries that they were actually putting out in the world, was also a really sharp use of technology in a way that added a lot of value and created an operating model to this that was very self-sustaining. So that was really smart. Couple of things on improvement. So while scale is a big advantage of a digital platform, it does come with a substantial challenge, which is critical mass. And this idea is only as valuable as the number of active users that participate regularly. So if you're the only person on this platform, it's really difficult for you to feel connected to like-minded people around the world, obviously. So for this to work, I think there needs to be a bit more development in how we actually launch and scale this, with specific emphasis on recruiting the right people first and building out from there. I think it's a unfair assumption to just believe that this idea would like ultimately have scale and that people would just use it because it was there. So a couple of thoughts on that. Building on top of the existing platform, could you do like an ambassador program? So in between the professional layer and the everyday athlete layer, maybe there were some more local ambassadors that were that we would like personally onboard into the platform that would help recruit people. Maybe you go after coaches, and coaches can serve it up to their teams. Maybe you go after semi-pro influencers in the community. But I think you needed something like something that's a little bit more proactive and considered in how you actually launch this, so people actually know it's there and then use it. Because I think if you just put it out there, there'd still be barriers of entry for people to join and actively participate. I also thought using petitioning this as more of a support group or a community rather than a diary, just from a terminology perspective, might be a little bit sharper. That's obviously a very specific sort of tactic, but diaries are inherently private, so a public-facing version might be a little intimidating, especially to a young girl who, per the brief, is going through some challenges in her life. And sharing those challenges like outwardly, publicly with the world might be a really hard step for her to take. So maybe a different analogy or a different like concept name or sort of different consumer facing name might be a little bit more welcoming than this idea of or this assumption that I'm going to sort of share my diary with, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of other people around the world, including pro athletes. That might be a little bit intimidating. But all things considered, really awesome job. You should be really proud of the concept and the pitch. And I really, really enjoyed the idea. Next one was Little Giants. So impact 7, scale 8, total gets you 7.5 out of 10. I think using everyday heroes as inspiration is really powerful. And this was one of my favorite just like creative approaches out of all of the ideas, because it really builds up like everyday athletes or everyday champions as if they're professionals, and really creates this really contagious and really emotional and magnetic sort of storytelling mechanism for like local communities and local inspiration, which I thought was really, really cool. It also felt very, very Nike. It's something that we do a lot of, especially lately, if you've seen a lot of our sort of crazy dream advertising. So I thought that this was super sharp. I also thought that targeting like community centers, youth centers, schools with the out of home placements was really, really smart, because it leans into the social dynamics of the peer or the friend that's getting heroed actually exists and interacts in real life with other people who see that story or that poster out in the world. And I think that there's something really compelling of like showing up to your school and seeing your friend like blown up 5 meters high outside on the playground. That's really, really magnetic and really, really inspiring. And so I thought that was a really, really sharp distribution strategy. I think the idea was lacking a little bit of disruption to take it over the edge. Like at the end of the day, it's predicated on traditional out-of-home advertising as the entry point. And I think no matter how inspirational and powerful those stories are, there'll be a little bit of work to do to get kids to care, especially if they don't know the individual who's being heroed. At the end of the day, like there's out-of-home advertising everywhere. So if you walk down the street in a city, you probably get inundated with hundreds, if not thousands, of logos, messages, et cetera. So I think there's an inherent blinder or filter that kids will have just because this is marketing and it looks like marketing. And I think you could have developed some other tactical ideas around the concept to overcome that filter a little bit. Then on the digital platform side, I think you could enrich the service beyond just providing places to play. Like what about programs that they could sign up for? What about having some more data or profiling around those places to play? Like which of those places are well lit, or by a bus route, or hosting a girls' day, or hosting girls' teams that you can join. So I think there could be on the service layer another level of detail put into the platform that would have made this a little bit more compelling. And then I forgot to mention it when I was talking about what I liked, but I really liked the fact that you are able to nominate somebody from the digital platform as well. So this idea of sort of a self-sustaining story driven by the community, I thought was really interesting, and also really, really sharp. So really, really nice job on this one. Nike TV. So impact 6, scale 8. I think I did my math right, but since I wrote it down, we'll give you, I did my math wrong, but since I wrote it down, we'll give you 7.5 instead of 7. But I thought the insight on this, or the approach to this idea was really sharp. So focusing on like the antiquated male-dominated media was a really compelling way into solving the problem. Obviously, media is a reflection of society and culture, and so reimagining the sports side of media to sort of to be more gender balanced, I think would genuinely change perception and start to change perception well beyond the sport environment. Also building a contribution economy into the platform. The virtual medal idea, I think was really, really engaging and also really smart. So there's there's an incentive for people to participate. On the improvement side, while you're on the brink of something really, really big, I think in its current form, it doesn't feel quite distinct enough from other things that are out there in the world, such as YouTube, such as Overtime, such as other kind of like new sport media platforms or new media platforms that exist. So I thought if you framed your idea slightly differently, using the same ingredients, I think you get to a new place that has a little bit more differentiation and therefore a little bit more potential. So where I would have started with this one is the question of, what if we turn sports media over to girls? And rather than building up the idea like mechanically through features and through sort of platform architecture, actually creatively unpacking some answers to that question of what if it was 14 to 17-year-old women that were actually the voice of sport? And how would that actually change the complexion and the energy around your platform? I think you get a little bit more distinction, and you might have slightly different features or a slightly different approach that ultimately brings something new to the world versus creating a sort of a more focused or topical version of like a video sharing platform, of which there are many out in the world already. But like all of the work, really awesome job. And I think if you just sort of looked at it a different way, you could develop this into a really, really compelling new media ecosystem that I think would have really strong potential out in the world. Next one. Sport her. So impact 8, scale 8, total 8 out of 10. I really love that you actually led with the business model. So creating an investment ecosystem in which athletes and endorsers were connected and could create mutual value for each other, I thought was really, really sharp and more powerful than just doing content or a campaign or something that was a little bit more sort of brand marketing oriented. This is also a really interesting business model that's starting to pop up in American universities. So it's something that I think has really strong potential to actually work. So in the States where tuition is really, really expensive, there are platforms now where people or organizations can invest in individual students who can't afford education. And then these investments pay the tuition and expenses for that kid to go to school. And then the investors recoup that investment by getting a percentage of the future salary of that student. So that student doesn't have to pay back anything until they have a job. And once they have a job, it's like 10% of the first 5 years of your income, of your salary, goes back to the investors who actually put you through school. So I thought that this was actually really forward thinking on a number of levels beyond sport that I thought was really interesting. But on that same theme, I think the incentive structure needs a little bit of work. So as a sponsor, I didn't think that the value proposition was quite compelling enough. And it assumed that like external organizations or brands or individuals were ultimately going to like endorse or pay, these semi-pro players or these amateur players who want to be pro, would believe that like tickets and jerseys and sort of those type of incentives or the badge were enough. And I thought maybe borrowing from that university sort of platform might be a little bit more compelling. So why shy away from actually giving back a percentage of their salary for the first X years? As another way to create mutual value on not just the athlete side, but also on the brand or the sponsor side as well. I also thought there was a huge compelling, there was something big and compelling in like a micro influencer platform. So I think there's an insight here that wasn't necessarily declared by you guys, but that you are definitely leaning into, which is something that I've actually experienced in my own life, which is that a lot of brands want to sponsor female athletes, or they want to work with female influencers or local like female like athletic influencers, but they don't have a great way to connect with them or to find them or to know the story behind someone before they commit. And so I thought actually building a layer into this that was actually like a micro influencer platform for like female pro or semi-pro athletes that connected those athletes with like future endorsement organizations might be another way in, where it was like an intermediary between, like, I'm the local grocery store and I need a local athlete to turn up to an event to help drive a specific activation that I'm doing, but I have no idea, how to approach somebody or how to, what criteria I should be looking at or what my options are. This is a way that you could actually make those connections and actually start to create sort of a micro influencer ecosystem that, again, creates mutual value, that provides resources to female athletes, but then also provides marketing platforms or ambassador platforms for brands and organizations that want to bring on partners to help drive their messaging, or their experience or their brand. So another extension that I think could have probably taken this up a level, but really, really nice job. Next one was Nike to see her. So impact 5, scale 8, total 6.5. Your proposition, I think, was one of the strongest and more intriguing in the whole group. So a platform to transform everybody into a talent scout, I thought was like a super interesting like provocation and place to start. And also like the extension of that, empowering the community to find the next superstar, is a really, really big idea. I think there were just some key improvements that could be made on the execution side. So you had a really good starting point, but making this about enabling anybody to take photos or videos of young women without permission might not be the best look for a platform. I think there's a lot of cultural barriers and or privacy right concerns that would be brought up if the whole premise of the idea is anyone with a smartphone can take a picture of girls playing sports or take a video of girls playing sports and submit it to a platform. So I thought about some other ways that you could get in, that you could sort of deliver on the same proposition, which is a platform to transform everyone into a talent scout. And I thought about could you do the same thing with public cameras at sporting facilities, whereby a athlete could actually get their footage from a training session or a match or a pickup game that they were playing, and then actually own that footage and then submit it themselves to some type of platform. And I actually thought, like, if you rigged up like smart cameras in places of sport around the world, and then maybe there's just a button that an athlete could hit that would like just dump or cut the last 5 minutes of footage into a package and deliver it to you. That could be another way that doesn't have the same sort of overt privacy concerns that you'd have if this was about like strangers or anybody taking videos of female athletes. But again, great work, really, really strong starting point, and you're off to a great start on the execution. I think there's just a couple of different ways you could look at this that could make it that much better. Next, we have Super Heroine. Impact 4, scale 7, total 5.5. I really like the idea of creating a curriculum and a digital platform to access it. Because I think that's a really smart way to empower girls to get better, which I think is, if getting better is a way to drive confidence, and confidence was one of the key barriers. I think this is bang on with the brief. And I thought the sort of idea, like, your analogy with Udemy or like some of these other sort of curriculum platforms was really sharp. I think the pitch back or the story you're telling got a little bit, I got a little bit lost at times trying to follow the story. So I think a lot of my feedback is actually specifically on how you present the idea, maybe not necessarily on the idea itself, but I didn't really understand the connection between the product, tennis rackets, boots, kimono, etc., and the digital platform, and kind of how those things work together. It kind of felt like two disconnected ideas. And I also thought maybe besides trying to invent your own platform, could you actually work directly with some of these sort of curriculum platforms like a Udemy or like a masterclass to actually host your programming for you, so you don't have to develop your own platform and then manage your own platform, and then you're actually tapping into an existing audience of people as well because they've got their own user base already sitting there using the platform. And so I thought that might be a way to improve the idea. But really awesome job. One of the more unique ideas in focusing on sort of like curriculum or sort of guidance to help women feel like they're getting better at sport as a way to drive confidence was super cool. So really nice job. Next we have Nike Together. Impact 7, scale 9, with a bonus point for having a prototype and a bonus point for having one of the cleverest names in the group, but mostly for having a prototype. That was pretty impressive. Actually really helped me understand the idea, and some of the detail that was in that prototype actually helped drive some of your scores up. What I like, the female exclusivity element is really interesting and a unique approach that I think will provoke a lot of attention and empowerment amongst the users. I think also just from an earned media perspective, that's a really sharp way to get people to pay attention, because people love what they can't have. And I think there's something really interesting about not letting men use this, at least initially, because it provokes a conversation, which ultimately drives awareness around the platform. The opportunity to rent equipment with your movement or with your participation was also really, really cool. There's probably some work to do to flesh out how this actually works, but making participation a currency with real value that actually perpetuates the same objectives, which is participation in sport, is a really, really big idea. So that was a really smart layer to bring into the platform. The stats and profile about each location, i.e. how like the safety, accessibility, illumination, etc., were also really, really useful, and gets to the heart of some of the barriers about like, is this place safe? Like, is it too dark for me to play at night? Is it easy for me to access it or to get there? Like, it's just really smart, practical detail to provide in the platform. And I also love that this tries to increase organic pickup sport versus formal or organized or professional sport. So it actually tries to enable women to make connections with other women who want to just go out and play, versus some sort of more formal, like team-based or league-based structure. Because I think this is the barrier to entry to this is always way lower, because all you need to do is, leave your house and find some friends, and you can, whether it's going for a run or playing footy or, whatever sport you want, you have that ability to do it. You don't have to worry about, registration for a team or tryouts or when your next game is or your coach. So I thought that was a really smart way in. So from an improvement perspective, one technology suggestion, an app is smart, but taking a more platform approach so this can manifest on the web as well, I think will increase participation or users. Downloading new apps is really hard. Like, I think there's, the average new app, the average number of new apps that like a 17-year-old kid downloads a month is like, almost zero now. because you basically have the apps you like and you use them, and then the only reason you download another app is if it's a means to an end of something else. But to wholeheartedly get someone to download like a new service like app is really difficult. So I think having a web platform would also be helpful. And an extension idea was, and again, this is not to say that not necessarily an improvement. This was just an idea that I thought would, you could layer on top of this to make it more compelling, was to integrate with ride sharing platforms or public transportation, so that you actually have safe transport built into getting to and from the locations that are built into the experience. And then you could extend your movement as currency idea to create a credit system where you aren't just getting access to rent equipment for your movement, but maybe you get a discount on your bus fare or a discount on your ride share through participation as well. But from a digital product perspective, and like taking a value proposition and then bringing it to life through an ecosystem of features, I thought this was the most comprehensive and sort of complete idea of the group, in sort of fully fleshing out what a digital product could be that would actually be valuable to a audience of users, over and over and over again. So really, really nice job. Running is essential. The last one is Run the World. And this one is also our winner. So impact 9, scale 10, and then bonus points for doing your own research to sharpen your opportunity statements and your development. So in your deck, you had some additional stats and some additional like insights that you went out and found yourself to really create some focus in what you were trying to achieve. So full stop, this one was fantastic, like a true vision for compelling, engaging, and a transformative sort of product and platform idea that sort of hits the brief on a number of levels. So first, again, movement as a currency is a really, really big idea. So something that this has in common with the previous idea also. Second, sort of creating a 360-degree purpose-driven ecosystem is super intelligent. Like that's a really big motivator for people to get involved with something. So allowing women who do sport to enable other women or girls to do more sport is like hits the nail on the head of that sort of overarching feedback I said in the beginning of like, how do you have a self-sustaining idea that doesn't require constant investment from the brand? This was sort of that exemplified perfectly. I also thought the hardware extension was brilliant, where you went above and beyond like, hey, what if we like tapped into the Nike running app? And we sort of leveraged that sort of platform that we had, but like extending that through like a wearable that also could sort of stand as a badge of that you're part of this idea or part of this sort of movement, I thought was really, really interesting. It also democratizes the idea as well. Although I would challenge the need to actually sell the badges. I can't remember if that was a specific piece of your idea or not. I think you maybe just mentioned distributing through stores. But like, I think if you buy a pair of running shoes, for example, like maybe you just get the badge for free, or you can, if you agree to pledge a certain amount of kilometers towards the cause, maybe you get the badge for free, or we refund your money. Maybe it costs $50. Then once you hit a certain level of achievement in the platform, maybe we give you that money back, or we give you that money through a voucher or a gift card to spend on Nike product, so that you don't actually have to buy the wearable. But I thought the wearable was a really smart way to extend the idea. Like obviously from a technical side, there's a level of detail and development that would need to happen, but just conceptually, like that's a really sharp way to democratize access to the idea. So a thought here on improvement is actually, do we need an app at all? Now that most smartphones and or smartwatches have built-in tracking systems, and there are several fitness apps or platforms out there already, including Nike's, could this actually just be an aggregator that provides an economy and community around movement, bringing a lot of other people's services together? So if I just want to use, my iHealth or my Apple Watch as a tracking device, I can do that, and it just plugs into something. Or if I have a Fitbit, I can use a Fitbit. Maybe there's a way to get to more scale with less barriers of entry on it. It also makes it bigger than running. So if it was about step counting or some sort of ubiquitous movement score that could include all types of sport, I think you have a platform that has more scale. So your scale score could go up to a 10. Obviously, if we were a digital product team or development team and we were thinking about road mapping this, like maybe starting with running actually makes the most sense and then building into other sports. But I don't think the potential of this is limited just to running and just to kilometers as the currency or the measurement device. And then just on a side note, I don't know if this crossed your mind, but or how much you know about China, but this is a slam dunk idea to build as a micro app on top of the WeChat platform, because WeChat has its own fitness tracking system. Like everybody and their mom in China uses WeChat. They have a micro app platform in which developers can build experiences over the top of the core services that they provide. And I thought that and in China, there's I think a bigger issue around movement in general that would create a really motivated market or audience or potential market to use the service. China is also massive. So it's 1.2 or 1.3 billion people who would immediately have access to the platform. I thought was actually that. If it was my decision, that is how I would build and deploy this idea. And then one side note, who would immediately have access to the platform. Yeah, I'm getting a bit of feedback. Was actually that. If it was my decision, that is how I would deploy this idea. And then one side note, who would immediately have access to the platform. Yeah, I'm getting a bit of feedback. Was actually that. If it was my decision, that is how I would deploy this. Can you guys hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Sorry, I was getting feedback. But I'm done. The only other comment I had was that Beyonce signed with Adidas. Because of the track that was the track you guys used and the Run the World concept. But that doesn't mean that the substance and the creative components of the idea aren't applicable. Did I miss any? Selena, did I get them all? I think that's everything, right?
Yes, you talked about everything.
What time is it? Well, I'm way over. Are there any questions from anybody? No?
No, I think you were wonderful. You gave us a great feedback, and that was just another class, just like the brief, you gave us in the same day. That was wow. So I just invited Amanda, which is one of the part of one of the teams the team of one. So she's online. So her microphone was on. That's why you were listening to that.
Well, with that, I have a couple of things I'd like to say before we close out. So number one, I just want to reiterate how impressed I was with all the work. So everyone who participated has a really bright future. I encourage everybody to add me on LinkedIn. Selena, you can give out my email address if you want. And if kids want to like reach out and have like private conversations or talk about how they can, how we can help with their professional careers or how they might get involved, with Nike or with agencies that Nike work with, or they just want advice. I want to remain a resource and a partner for everyone who participated. And then what I'm going to do with all these ideas is I'm actually going to shop them around internally, including the Brazil office, the Brazil Nike office. And I'm not going to make any promises because there are a lot of stakeholders who will have to agree. But if there are teams on campus that actually want to move forward with any of these ideas, we would absolutely work with the team and the individuals on the team that help develop it to bring it to life. And there probably be business opportunities there. We obviously would give you credit and pay you for your work if we do move forward. But I'm blown away, humbled by what you guys came up with in such a short period of time with such a minimum amount of information. Everybody should be really proud. And don't take your foot off the gas. You guys are absolutely as competitive as a young group of students as any agency I've ever worked with. And I don't say that just to make a compliment. Like, I truly mean that. The level of work is on par with some of the best agencies in the business. And you should be really proud of that. And the future is bright for all of you. So thank you for including me. And I hope I hear from some of you either on LinkedIn or elsewhere, and that this isn't the last time we get to work together.
Well, I'm the one who has to say thank you. I know how difficult it is, to put us on our schedule, and you have been doing this since the beginning. And as I told you in the first moment when we talked in Austin, is like, it's just amazing to us to have this opportunity. I mean, we are not a big school, and the kids are just spread around the Brazil, not in São Paulo. Mostly of them want to work there, and listening your feedback made me think, like, what you told me that last day in South by Southwest, when I asked you if you thought that we could do it being out of the main centers, and you said sure, just keep doing it. And that's, I wasn't insecure about your feedback, and it's like, I need to read it again. So it is amazing. Thank you. So thank you. And I'm pretty sure Mars is here now. He's one of the mentors, and Zanachi is a mentor for our basis course, the creative course that prepare the kids for the future creatives. And it's just like encourage us to keep going here. So thank you. I'm the one who just have to tell you that.
It was my pleasure. And to all the mentors, thank you all as well. It was a pleasure working with you. The Tuesday night conversations I got a lot out of them too. So thanks for being part of the community. And I'm sure the students got a lot out of your coaching and your involvement as well.
Yeah, I think Amanda can say something, because she was, she had this opportunity and this experience, and you know what, she's a planner, and I have to tell you that she's not, because most of the kids like everybody's creative, but Amanda is a planner. So when Victor asked me, can I be, can I have as my partner planner? I said sure. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, guys. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about the mess I made
That's
in the
okay.
beginning. I was like hearing you, and I saw me, and I was like, oh, my microphone is on, and I'm listening to you talking twice. I'm sorry, I was nervous
That's
too
okay.
because Vitor is playing soccer in a competition, so he's not here, and he's not. I don't know if he's watching in the cell phone, but we are really happy. We are really proud. We are really proud of the the work that our colleagues make, and it's really nice to know that we won with those lines of planning, of presentation, of the it, well, you said everything already. It was a very good job, and I am very surprised because, as Celinha told you, I'm not a creative and a deviser, and so thank you guys. I'm really nervous. I don't think I can speak really well. My English is when I'm nervous, it gets worse.
Congratulations, Amanda. Congratulations. You are,
Congratulations.
everybody is creative.
I was gonna say everybody is creative.
Yes.
And you know the reason you guys won was that bonus point for how you set up the problem, and I'm willing to bet the planner in you is the reason why in your deck you have such a comprehensive sort of framing of the opportunity. So and I just want to say, for what it's worth, the video footage you used to make the video pitch, actually, that was one of my projects, like 4 or 5 years ago. I actually helped produce it. So I saw it and I was like, oh, wow, it takes me back.
Yes, I wanted to put some real images, like girls running and everything. And Peter was like, "No, I already have an illustration to use it." And I was like, "Okay." And it was like a fight in all the process because I wanted to put more data and more research. And he was like, "No, it's good. It's just a board. It's just." I was like, "No, but there is so much reasons to clarify," and he was like, "No, it's good, it's fine, don't worry."
You can tell you guys got the bonus point because of the research. So.
Oh. Thank you. I will tell him.
I'm really sorry, guys. I do have to run, but Amanda, congratulations. Please pass it on to Victor as well if he isn't listening. You guys did a really nice job. You know, the future is bright, and like I said, if you add me on LinkedIn, Selena, you feel free to give out my email address if you ever want. You ever think I can help with something, or you need advice, or you find yourself in the States and you think I can help with an opportunity, don't be shy. And I suspect this won't be the last time that we're on a Google Hangout together.
Thank you again, and we translated your feedback already.
Perfect.
And we're gonna share it with all the kids of the Future Creatives right now, just after the call.
Perfect.
And yeah, I'll keep calling you because
yeah, I know you will.
you have no way out. I mean, you're part of the Future Creative now.
I guess so. I'm proud to be part of it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night and a great weekend, and I'll speak with you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan.
My pleasure. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Amanda, congratulations! Sério, parabéns, guria. Putz, que legal. Mas parabéns para todo mundo, viu, gente? Olha, que legal ouvir isso do cara, né, Márcio? Fala você agora.
Cara, é muito legal ter visto ele, a dedicação que ele teve de olhar todos os trabalhos, dar todo aquele feedback assim, tem o porquê de ter 5 dias aí de olhar, entender, olhar a profundidade, qual que é a escala disso, qual que é o impacto disso, ele ter tido o cuidado de entender exatamente os objetivos e também a parte, sim, do trabalho, de ter dado bônus por individualidades feitas no trabalho, então acho que isso é muito legal. Eu achei legal também no começo ele falar, vou dar o feedback igual eu dou para as minhas agências, então, tipo, isso foi um pitch. Isso que eu acho muito legal. E parabéns, Amanda, Vitor, por ter ganho. Acho que todos os alunos aí que participaram, estudantes. Foi um desafio que eu acho que, às vezes, até na própria agência que vocês trabalham, acaba não acontecendo, porque foi um grande briefing, foi muito material que ele mandou para a gente, muito tempo dedicado dele de tirar dúvidas, de tentar ajudar a gente, e também, depois desse feedback, eu vejo que realmente ele realmente quis participar e viu o valor agregado em tudo isso. Isso é muito legal. E foi muito legal participar de tudo isso.
Verdade, verdade. Eu, assim, cara, sei lá, eu nunca imaginei que eu pudesse conseguir a Nike como cliente, assim, para um projeto e a possibilidade acho que de essas coisas e a disponibilidade do cara, eu fiquei muito emocionada. Descobri, sei lá, eu acho que foi incrível. Foi muito parabéns, viu? Todos bem, porque eu sei o quanto cada sabe, desde Amanda e Victor até outras. Eu sei que todo mundo se dedicou, a gente fala na paralela com todo mundo, com os mentores, a gente tem o nosso próprio grupo, então, assim, foi um puta trampo, assim, para geral, mas eu acho que a gente fez bonito. Cara, o e-mail que ele mandou lindão. Basicamente foi isso aí, mas impressionante.
Gente, eu vou dar tchau aqui, que eu preciso ligar para o meu pai, que é velho, ainda tem que ver uns negócios para a aula de amanhã e tem que trabalhar hoje ainda. Amanda, parabéns, ficou fantástico o trabalho. Espero que você participe mais de coisas na Rédia. A Rédia está de portas abertas para você. E parabéns, foi bem fantástico. Impressionou muito quando a gente estava vendo os trabalhos no Drive, até que eu comentei essa linha, como o trabalho de vocês estava muito bem acabado, de raciocínio, de... Parabéns mesmo. Beijo.
Amanda, você quer falar mais alguma coisa, amiga?
Não, eu só quero agradecer mesmo, Celinha, falar que eu fiquei arrepiada, assim, o Evan falando, dá para ver que ele tem uma paixão enorme, assim, eu acho que ele reconhecendo, e cara entende muito, dá para ver, sabe, conhece, tem contato com a agência do mundo inteiro, então acho que para todo mundo foi um mega aprendizado, assim, eu acho que só aumentou a minha vontade de entrar ainda um pouquinho mais aí para esse mundo, enfim, mas brigadão, viu?
Obrigada a você aí pela dedicação e pelo empenho. Às vezes a gente está longe, assim, um pouco mais difícil, né? Essa coisa da comunicação, da relação e tal. Mas a gente tenta. Foi muito legal conhecer vocês e ter vocês nessa fase do projeto, viu? Parabéns, parabéns, parabéns. Vamos encerrar aqui e depois eu falo com vocês no privado ali para pegar os detalhes e dar sequência aqui à viagem e tudo, tá bom? Obrigada, beijo, gente.
Obrigadão, gente. Um abraço a todo mundo aí. Parabéns novamente a todo mundo e a vocês, Amanda e Vitor.
Tchau.
Tchau, tchau.